Akwa Ibom state government and a Chinese firm located in Uyo, the state capital, are at loggerheads over an alleged environmental pollution arising from the company's production of motor vehicle brake pads. There have been reports also of environmental degradation as a result of substance being emitted from the factory, which is located close to the Ikot-Epene Road in the state capital. 2 years ago, officials of the State Ministry of Environment who visited the factory, led by the former Commissioner Charles Odo, were allegedly attacked by workers at the factory. 2 Chinese were said to have been arrested over the matter, but the company had failed to relocate or cease production or modernize its production line. Meanwhile, Governor Umo Eno has ordered a detailed investigation into the activities of the manufacturing company. Meanwhile, Governor Umo Eno has initiated a bill seeking to compel local government chairmen in Akwa Ibom State to reside in their domains while in office. This move was contained in one of 4 executive bills sent to the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly. The 3 other bills include a bill for a law to establish the Ibom Peace Corps and for connected purposes, and bill for a law to make special provisions for statutory boards in Akwa Ibom State and for connected purposes. The bill seeking to restrict the local government chairmen to their domains has continued to generate reactions, with many considering it as a good move to discourage the council chairmen from abandoning their duties. Joining us in the studio to look at these issues and other national issues is the Commissioner for Information, Akwa Ibom State, Emeobong. Thank you for joining us on Newsnight.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
It's a pleasure. Before we go on to the issue of the Chinese company and the local government chairman matters, let's quickly see what you're doing in your state to prepare for flood.
Okay, you have the issue of flood. You'd see, like the NEMA representatives had said, has been recurrent. Immediately you get that signal, the next thing, the flood comes.
Right.
And therefore, away from what the national is doing, the governor yesterday led the sanitation exercise himself because he's conscious of this. And away from the external factors, you know that in every problem you would always have external and internal factors. You would always have the exogenous and the indigenous now. So we're trying to look at the indigenous factors that cause flooding, that aid flooding. 2 weeks or so ago, there's a road at Akwa Ibom that was flooded, and you discover that it's just the silting of drains. It's just the blockage of drains by people dumping things there. The governor went there himself. And the DIY model, which he does, the do-it-yourself model. Yesterday, he led sanitation himself in Eket, where he resides, and directed all commissioners to also lead. You see, there's this thing about leadership. When a leader is there, people who are your followers will do it either to get your attraction, to get your attention, or in the process, they do it properly. So he tasked leaders to go back, and the focus of the entire focus of his administration is the rural area. He says, we've paid too much attention to the urban centers. And so you're going to have a stark difference between a state, where you have the urban centers, which are so much developed, and the rural centers, which are totally disconnected. And he's saying, look, let us go back to the rural centers so that we can also balance development there. So yesterday, he led the sanitation exercise, which was focused all over the state on desilting gutters. You see, the waterways of the state, for example, in the last administration, in partnership with the World Bank, we did a water evacuation program that crisscrossed 4 local government, 18 villages, and currently the most expensive water evacuation project in the whole of Africa. That is as effective as you allow water to come to that point. So if people throw garbage in the water collection points, the outfall drains, then certainly water won't get to the point where it is taken safely to a natural disposing point. He's also started a war against the improperly terminated drains. You see, some of the causes of erosion and flooding, away from the external one, which you've discussed earlier, are also improperly terminated drains caused by man's action. So you see contractors who terminate drains wrongly. How do you do a road where the road that should be the collector point, you know, the outfall drain is higher than the gutter coming in. So you're going to obviously have a problem there. So those are the things he's being proactive enough long before this circular came out to say, look, gentlemen, we must take care and make sure that our waterways, our water channels are clear. We do not have to put dirt there. We must make sure we take care of these channels. When external water comes, what happens with stormwater is just more water than ordinarily prepared for. At least if you have the channels clear, you would have minimal damage. Minimal damage.
Okay, so you guys are prepared for minimal damage. Let's move to the other issues. Environmental degradation by foreign companies. It's very clear that we know that China will not take half of what they do in developing countries, you know. So what exactly, where are you? What agreement have you had in the last meeting with this Chinese company in your state?
You see, it's not just China, so that it doesn't look as if history. Almost every developed country would not take in their country half of what they do outside. Which is why when you're looking at the polarization between the global north and south, you see that the global north is part of the problems of the global south. And most times they now come as if they are helpers, whereas they were the instigators of the problem themselves. Now, the governor being a business-friendly person, because the whole idea of the Arise agenda, which is here, which is not your own Arise, and I hope you don't think I'm coming to take your job because I'm marketing Arise. The Arise agenda stands for agricultural revolution, rural development, infrastructure, security, educational advancement. So that's the focus of the Umo Eno administration. But all of this is tailored to the fact that he wants to make Akwa Ibom the place to be. How do you do that? You have to attract businesses. So he's very careful with businesses that are already on ground. He's careful not to scare businesses because we exist within the framework of the rule of law. But away from that, he's a peacemaker. And so he's decided to invite them to say, gentlemen, listen, you're going to relocate from here. We have an industrial estate. Where that company is situated currently is situated among the domicile of people, the residence where people are living. And you can see that a mere passing there, if you're not using your air conditioner, the stench from the place is unbearable. And therefore, but the governor, you see, truth is, maturity is in the restraint, not in the exercise of power. Because everyone who has power wants to execute power, wants to, you know, power is like a dam. It generates energy. And so power begins to push the people who have it to say, you need to execute, you need to execute. But the governor, in the exercise of maturity and restraint, is saying, look, gentlemen, you need to move to the industrial estates. We have an industrial estate that would allocate land to you. You need to move there. We need to understand what you're doing and how you're doing.
Okay, what they're doing and how they're doing. Let's move quick. So what commitment have they made to the state government to move from where they are? Because they cannot continue to stay in a residential environment when you have an industrial area.
Yes.
So what commitment have they made in clear terms?
You also know that the state government has handed down our demands as a state. We owe the people to protect the rights and privileges of the people of the state and every other person with them. But you also must admit that this thing can't be, the relocation can be immediate. It's
of course,
process.
what commitment have they made? We also understand that they're providing jobs. So we don't want that capital flat.
No, obviously.
Okay, so what commitment have they made?
The governor has set up a system to monitor that and to work with them to achieve that. Good. For example, do
you have a deadline for them?
It's on course.
When is the deadline?
For example, no, you see, the issue is it issuing the deadline or meeting the objectives? Okay. The governor is interested in meeting the objectives. Okay. So what is happening is that there are members of government who are working with members of that company to ensure that the objective of government, you know, which is the relocation of that plant from there, without destroying the business, except the business is harmful. Because we're now going to look into the business of what they do. Is it harmful to health? Even if you relocate to an industrial estate, you must still conform with clean energy. You must conform with the fact that you must not be doing what is harmful to human beings.
Rule of engagement.
Yes.
Yeah, that's okay. Now talking about the business that people do and how it affects the people. Let's look at the local government chairman and how the state assembly is moving to encourage them to live closer to the people. Do you need, in the first place, to cajole or push or encourage, quote unquote, public service holders to stay closer to their people? Why do you have that challenge in your state?
No. What the governor is doing is to make sure that, you see, there is the division between moral and legal.
Right.
Yeah, so you can't hold people accountable on morality because we have different, on a scale, we have a spectrum of moral demands and moral expectations. But when that law is passed, it becomes
Legal.
an obligation.
Yeah.
It becomes a contract. You must stay in your state.
Because how do you get
your local government
how do you get
area.
to understand what's happening to your people, the people you're governing, if you're
No,
not close to them?
No, the truth too is that the governor wants 100% compliance. He doesn't want a haphazard thing. And because he's interested, what has driven this is because the governor is interested in the rural development, which is the R part of our RISE agenda. And he wants that there must be a chairman, a councillor, and everyone. There are village heads. You see, I won't mention this. There's a head, which there's a state where someone, the governor went to a particular local government and said, where's the paramount ruler? And he said the paramount ruler had gone home. Had gone to his village. So things like that. There are times where even traditional rulers don't live in their domains for reasons we may not know. So the governor is insisting that, look, the rural areas will be made comfortable and convenient for public officials to stay. If we're attracting businesses, for example, Agric, the Ministry of Agric has now been added to the Ministry of Rural Development because Agric happens in the rural development. He says, look, who is protecting the investment there? Would you be living in Uyo or would you be living in Eket? Would you be living in the cosmopolitan parts of it? There are some cosmopolitan parts of Akwa Ibom. You can't live there and be answerable to your people. Go there. When you seek to govern people, like he sought to governors, I'm restricted now to Akwa Ibom. I live in Akwa Ibom. I live in Uyo, the capital of Akwa Ibom. Go and live in your local government area. And he's even gone far to promise that, look, we're going to give you lodges, we're going to give you residents that will fit your status. Go and live with your people.
Go and live with the people. Okay, let's talk about the big one, fuel subsidy removal. How are your people coping and how are you distributing the palliatives? How are you engaging your people and ensuring that their well-being is paramount?
The beautiful part is that the governor we have relates very much with the people. He puts protocol away and so he relates with the people. So he feels the pain right on. He goes to church, he sits among them, he goes into the market himself. The palliatives, there's a committee which is set up which has members of labor and other CSOs as a part of that committee. And the Secretary of Government is the head of that committee and he's informed me that 9 trucks of rice have been received. And we're also aware that the money has the federal government has started disbursing money, but not complete, to the states. And as of today, I'm aware that 2 billion has been received. Wow. And that committee has wrapped up its report and will be presenting to the governor because the governor is insisting that we must get these palliatives to the poorest of the poor, to the people who need it the most. And he's called a meeting of the elites to say, gentlemen, please, this palliative isn't political. This palliative, if you don't need it, you don't need it. Right. Don't be involved. Don't be interested in it. Rather, as elites, we should be contributing to help. If the federal government is doing this, the state government is doing their part, as leaders, we must be able to help the people. So they are developing a strategy where this would have to go to every single village. And not just the village and it ends up at the village head's palace. No, it must get to the poorest. And you see, the truth is when it gets to the village, all of us in the villages know who needs what most.
Right.
So he's very particular about that. And in less than no time, those palliatives are going to go. And the difference with what Akwa Ibom is doing is not just doing a short-term interventionist palliative. It's saying, what are we doing in 3 months? What are we doing in 6 months? What are we doing till this is over, till the federal government, because like the president said, yes, they will be paying. Everyone knows they will be paying. But how long will this pain last is the question. And so the governor is not just thinking about the short-term amelioration, because the palliative in its own is a mere intervention. Right. When this intervention is over, most times, you see, post-COVID, a new class, a new poor has been created. Now, so when this palliative is over, and this person is used to living at this level, what happens? So the governor is trying to create a system that dovetails from the palliative into a sustainable means of poverty reduction.
Sustainable means of poverty reduction. In the Emeobong, I must say a big thank you to you for coming to Newsnight.
Thank you. At least you're smiling now better because you are sure I'm not taking your job.
Thank you for coming to Newsnight.
Thank you.
We can only wish you all the best.
Thank you. Appreciate it.